The first one is my absolute favorite low back exercise. It's called the Founder. I learned it from Eric Goodman of Foundation Training. Yeah, this one is gonna strengthen your core, I promise. So what you're gonna do, I'll show it 2 ways so you can see what I'm doing. You're gonna stand up and take your feet wider than hip distance. So this is your outer hips. I want your feet wider than your outer hips. And then if you practice yoga, you know what chair pose is. You're gonna sit back into chair pose. So I'm gonna start by keeping my hands here, but eventually you're gonna extend your arms to make it a little more challenging. So, feet wider than hip distance, chair pose. And then just so you can see what's going on here, hands at your hips. So what you're gonna do is take your knees back so that they're on top of your ankles and bring all the weight into your heels so that you might even wanna lift your toes up. Stick your tailbone out a lot and then lift your chest. So it's like a big arch in your back. And then here's the part you really got to remember, especially if you have a weak core, is to lift your belly button into your spine. Feel that corset tightening around your abdomen. So knees back, weight in the heels, tailbone out, and chest lifts. And then if you want to go a little bit deeper, if you want to add intensity, you can reach your arms straight up. And that's going to add some weight to the posture. And here's what it is from this side. Chair, weight in the heels, knees back, that's really important. Lift your chest, extend your arms. That's the Founder for you. And that's gonna be probably the #1 exercise that I would give to people with any kind of low back pain and even hip and neck pain. That one is a really good all around because it really targets basically every muscle group that we talked about earlier. Now, you're gonna need a tennis ball for the next one. If you don't have a tennis ball, any kind of therapy ball, or I probably wouldn't use a golf ball because it's gonna be too hard. But what you're gonna do is find your glute medius. Remember, the glute medius is the key link between the hips and the lower back. So you'll put your hands on your hip and, sorry, I gotta block all these commenters. Inappropriate. You'll put your hands on your on your hip, on the very top of your hip bone, and then you're gonna feel the top of the hip bone and drop off of it. So you're just below it and kind of right on the side of the body, but just behind the side seam. So if you find the side seam of your shirt, you're just behind that. And that's where you're gonna place this tennis ball. And now it's gonna be your decision where you use the tennis ball. So it's gonna be a little less intense if you walk up to a wall and lean against the wall with that tennis ball in between you and the wall. Or if you want a little more intensity, I would suggest getting down on the floor and kind of rolling around on the floor with that tennis ball right in this spot. And I would do that for 30 seconds, anywhere from 30 seconds to 2 or 3 minutes. Here's the other side. And that's gonna be a really, really nice release for your gluteus medius. Now, you might not need a release for gluteus medius. You might need to strengthen them. So if you wanna do that, you are gonna get back into your chair pose, just like we did before, maybe with your feet hip distance this time. And this one is really easy. You're gonna push your feet down into the ground and then spread your feet away from each other without actually moving them, as if you're trying to split a hole in the floor beneath you. And when you do that, you'll feel the outside of your hips turn on. Those are your gluteus medius and gluteus minimus turning on. So again, 30 seconds to 2 or 3 minutes is a really good, just depending on how strong you are or how fast you want to amp it up. That's a really good time frame to practice those exercises. And then the last thing, before I talk about sleeping, let me show you a good QL stretch. So hopefully you guys can see me. I'm gonna have to get on the floor for this one. So it's pretty easy to stretch QL. All you're gonna do is get into a regular twist, hug the knees in, drop both knees over to one side, and then you might need to support this shoulder with a block or a blanket, depending on how high off the ground it is. But what you're gonna do with this top leg is reach your knee towards the bottom knee. So you really wanna get your hips and your knees stacked. And you'll probably have to keep pushing through that knee. And you'll probably have to keep pushing through that knee. And you'll probably have to keep pushing through that knee. And you'll probably have to keep pushing through that knee. And you'll probably have to keep pushing through that knee. And you'll probably have to keep pushing through that knee. And you'll probably have to keep pushing through that knee. And you'll probably have to keep pushing through that knee. And you'll probably have to keep pushing through that knee. And you'll probably have to keep pushing through that knee. And you'll probably have to keep pushing through that knee. And you'll probably have to keep pushing through that knee. And you'll probably have to keep pushing through that knee. And you'll probably have to keep pushing through that knee. And you'll probably have to keep pushing through that knee. And you'll probably have to keep pushing through that knee. And you'll probably have to keep pushing through that knee. And you'll probably have to ke And eventually you'll feel this stretch. It might not happen right away, but you'll feel a stretch right in the side of the lower back, the top side in this stretch. And that is stretching your QL. And you may need that and you may not need that, but try it out and see how it feels. Feels really good if you need it. And then the final thing that I want you to think about, it's not exactly an exercise, it's a change in your patterns. And I want you to think about the way you sleep. And that is going to be really important to your any kind of lower back issues, because low back, the way you sleep can put you into all kinds of weird positions, and then hopefully if you're sleeping well, you are in those positions for at least 8 hours a night, and that can really bind up your connective tissue and your muscles. So the best and most supportive way to sleep is on your back. Body pillow is good. I'll talk about that in a second. Most supportive is on your back. But I don't want you to just jump. If you don't sleep on your back already, I don't want you to just jump to sleeping on your back, because there are a lot of energetic and emotional components to the way you sleep, and you probably won't be super successful and you'll lose a lot of sleep if you just go right to sleeping on your back and force yourself in there. But on your back, if it doesn't feel great to sleep on your back, you can try putting a pillow or some kind of bolster underneath your knees. So that's one way. Or an even better way to support your low back when you're sleeping is to hang your heels, so like the edge of your heel off the edge of the bed, kind of like that, if this is the edge of your bed. And that's super supportive. If you sleep on your side and you use a body pillow, you're really going to want to support neutral in your body. So if I'm standing here and this is neutral, which would be the way I would be sleeping on my back, or maybe like this, when you turn on your side, you usually end up doing something like this or that. That's kind of how you end up sleeping. So you're going to want to support with a pillow underneath the curve in your waist. You're going to want to support between your arms and between your knees. And then you're going to want to have the right size pillow for your head. So the width of the pillow should be from your shoulder to your ear. And that's how you would support yourself if you're sleeping on your side. And that's a really good midway from switching from belly sleeping to back sleeping. So if you do want to try to work towards back sleeping, start with all those pillows supported on your side. And also, don't worry so much if you can't do it right away, and don't worry so much if you wake up in a different position. It's all good. Just start in the position that is supportive for you.